All right, getting ready to go live. So let me go back over here.
All right, cool. Got the notification, we good.
That. Got it. Here.
Bit.
What's going on, Cheese?
What's going on, player?
Check the chat, Chief Biko.
Got you.
Hold on 1 second, y'all. Let me it's taking a second. All right, let me do this. All right.
Good to go. All right, perfect. Hello and welcome to the Lost Confederacy channel. This is week 13 of the 13-week fiscal program for recovery for American prisoners of war. You have myself, Chief Biko. Today we have Chief Alligator as well as Chief Blackcoat. And here, as always, we focus more so on that first letter in the acronym APOW, which is American, since we are the American. Today, we'll go ahead and start off again. Just reiterating, just to remind the viewers, you know, what we're dealing with in regards to, you know, the militia, military occupation. It came out September 7th, pretty much a couple of weeks ago, about how they had some leaked information regarding the Oath Keepers. So just want to continue to, you know, reemphasize this, continue to reiterate this with you all, because they're in this government. They're the politicians that, you know, both wings are telling you to vote for. They're judges when you go to these different courts. They're your neighborhood police officer. So yeah, if you disagree with it, comment below. You know, we want to get that engagement. We want to be able to answer you all's questions. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and play the video, and then we'll jump into our information right after.
Defamation League's Center on Extremism is out with an in-depth analysis of a leaked Oath Keepers membership list from a year ago, which finds there were hundreds of names on it of current or former elected officials, law enforcement officers, and members of the military. The Oath Keepers are a far-right militia group, multiple members of which stormed the United States Capitol during the insurrection and that attack on January 6th. For more on this new report, CEO and National Director of the Anti-Defamation League, Jonathan Greenblatt, joins us now. Jonathan, thanks for being with us. So take us through the report that you all did, how you got your hands on the list, and what were some of the more troubling aspects of what you found?
Sure. Thank you for having me this morning, Willie. And I will tell you, this is a chilling report, the likes of which we've never released before. Last September, ADL analysts were able to get our hands on a data leak of the Oath Keepers membership rolls. There were 38,000 names that were essentially pulled from their records and put out in the open. Our analysts pulled down the information before the Oath Keepers could pull it back. We used open source techniques, including public records, social media, and other methods to review every single name that we found. And I must say, we thought the Oath Keepers were a threat when they rampaged through the Capitol on January the 6th, but we had no idea just how deep the threat truly is. We found hundreds of active law enforcement members who are part of the Oath Keepers, 10 chiefs of police, 11 sheriffs, dozens and dozens of active members of the US military, some 80 individuals who were running for public office. almost 24 of whom made it through the primaries and will be up this fall. And look, you might not know all of these names. Many people might know Arizona State Senator Wendy Rogers, who still, months after the terror attack at the Capitol, proudly proclaimed that she was an oath keeper in support of the group. But I'm talking about a county commissioner in Nevada, a town justice in New York, a firearms instructor in Pittsburgh, a pastor in North Carolina, and it goes on and on and on. These are individuals with access and influence. These are individuals with resources and training. And these are individuals who have shown us they are willing to commit acts of sedition and violence against the US government.
Jonathan, are you surprised at the extent of the membership of the Oath Keepers and other far-right groups who apparently, or maybe they do know, that the underpinnings of the philosophy of these groups are rooted in race and religion? In other words, they're against anybody who isn't white. And Jewish people obviously have a target on their backs based upon their philosophies. Does this surprise you at all that their membership is so diverse in a sense?
It somewhat does. I mean, look, right-wing extremism is the spectrum. We know that, Mike. And so there are white supremacists, there are sovereign citizens, and indeed, there are these armed militia groups. We know organizations like the Proud Boys, Tario, the head of it, is Hispanic. And indeed, there is some diversity among the Oath Keepers. But I think what's more frightening is the fact that they, for a long time, have prioritized recruiting active and retired law enforcement and military. We thought, Mike, they weren't being successful. We were wrong. We have a problem with an enemy inside our own ranks who has committed, as the Oath Keepers do, to uphold a higher oath, not to have fidelity to our commander-in-chief or necessarily to the jurisdictions where they work, but to their notion of the Constitution and a holy obligation that, again, puts minorities, puts Democrats, and puts ordinary citizens in their crosshairs.
CEO of the Anti-Defamation League, Jonathan Greenblatt, thank you very much for coming on this morning.
All right, go ahead and stop it right there. But again, just wanted to highlight that point again. As he stated, they're pretty much infiltrated within this government at all levels. So again, I just had to pose the question to the viewer. Are you going to go out and vote this last fiscal quarter? Knowing exactly what this the CEO of the Anti-Defamation League just stated. And again, this is just one militia group, the Oath Keepers. As we always stated, in prior videos, they're militia of several states. But this is just one particular group in which they were able to track or pinpoint pretty much 38,000 members. So again, just have to ask yourself these questions. And he didn't say that, prosecution or that these people on this list will be, they would have hearings or be prosecuted for, their actions, or he didn't even label it as a hate group. So you already see what's going. We're just making you all aware, pretty much, is what's being said in that video, and that you do with that information what you please. But yeah, it's time that we stop, playing these games, stop, putting our faith within this system, and stop exercising, these quote unquote voting rights that aren't getting us anything tangible. And I'll let you all kind of build off of that.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and add my 2 cents on this whole report of all of these official government agencies having, this infiltration of white supremacy or whatever. But doing the recap on you guys' past 2-week videos, y'all been pretty much honking down on this topic, and lots of bombs have been dropped. As I was listening, Chief Biko had said, I think in last week's video, something very important. I'm not gonna misquote him, but as I was thinking, I was like, okay, these names are coming out because they're on paper, they're documented. So it's kind of easy to throw them up under the bus. But as we know here today, these people have certain positions to uphold. So if these names are coming out and they're upholding this religion or race type of ideology within their own, who's in the background slowing down this effect going forward? So who's actually in the background fighting back on these people? Okay, we got names now, and never believe these numbers. It's everybody. They're just throwing out numbers now because the word is out. The cat's out the bag. So now let's just throw out random numbers, and some of these numbers might be real, but it's pretty, to me, it's everybody. Because if we're still, like you said, we're the tangibles. If we're still voting and getting nothing, then we know we're just still playing the game. So now we're just throwing numbers out there. But yeah, back to what I was saying about these numbers coming out. Yeah, I mean, we knew that, but now that we're actually seeing it, what are we doing to stop it? I just want to go back to Atlanta. They're fighting on crime. They're locking up a lot of gang members. What are we doing as a country to stop white supremacy to going forward? Like, are we gonna look at this? Are we acknowledging it? So that's my 2 cents on that one.
Yeah, for me, it's just a mic drop. This whole channel was started to teach the American that you're under military occupation. And we started off with the 1755 Militia Act. That's the ground floor, or that is the code that these Europeans operate off of when they were exiled from Europe. And tie that into January 6, 2021. All the hearings that you've seen over the third fiscal quarter, which this is the last week of the third fiscal quarter, you wonder why nobody got arrested. You wonder why the Secret Service didn't get arrested for deleting service text messages, because they're all part of the militia. You wonder why those politicians that look like us were hiding in certain chambers, fearing for their life, why they built hanging stations in front of the Capitol. They were looking to hang them in front of the world. Now those people are fearing for their life because they know that the people that work next to them gave up secret passcodes, deactivated the metal detectors to let them people in. Now it's out the bag. The hearings are pointless. Why? Because they're all militia. So tying in what Chief Blackcoat said and what Chief Biko said, you can't run from this, people. They've declared it to the world now. And we don't understand how government works as a group of people. What they're doing is basically declaring, we've infiltrated the United States government. And so moving forward, to continue to participate in this system when you've already been told that you don't know who you're voting for. I find it very interesting that all these elections coming up and you won't even run down who's active militia. So pay attention to that. And that's why we're going to continue to run this video for the remainder, as long as we're doing this channel, because we're in a succinct timeline and we're going to show y'all when the fourth fiscal quarter comes up and you start voting, you don't know who you're voting for. These people just told you, sheriff, police, public sector, preachers, what did he say? Firearms trainers, everybody around you was on code and you don't know who you're voting for. Military. So even if they wanted to do fight on crime, like you were saying, Chief Blackcoat, in Atlanta, even if they wanted to crunch down on the crooked DEAs or whatever, whoever that upper management is, they're militia. They're not going to let that agenda get pushed through. They're going to tell you, focus on the inner city. Go lock them niggas up. Nah, it's real.
I asked a question, but yeah, like you said, Chief Alligator, once it gets that, because we're seeing it again, and I like what you're doing, because yeah, the cat's out the bag. It's on the news. That's how I got it in my notes. It's on the news. So we ain't worried about the Boston Celtics coach fucking. We're not worrying about Brett Favre stealing $5 million from welfare. It's on the news
about none of that.
They talking about white supremacy, militia within the government. And of course, these are, like you said, Chief Alligator, these are all of your highest officials at the highest level of it. That's what it is. So the cat's out the bag. I mean, that's what this channel about. But yeah, that's that what's that word? Curtain, that the void, whatever.
Yeah.
It's on the timetables right now.
Just tell them from now on. Every time we do a video, just tell them we can drop the mic now, because you could have thought we were radical. You could have thought we were crazy. Now we got proof. You're in the military motherfucking occupation. Everybody that's important is a part of the militia. And they just told you one group, the Oath Keepers, got 38,000 deep. That's just one group.
And again, going back to what their constitution say, militia of several states. So we, again, they done already highlighted that they got multiple members of the Oath Keepers in different states. So like Chief Alligator just stated, this is just one group. So just pay attention, people. That's all we got to say. Next, we'll go ahead and actually have Chief Alligator with this week's Inventor.
I'm gonna share my screen real quick. Let me know if y'all can see it.
You good?
Hold on. Make this bigger. I think I need to move y'all to the side. How can I move y'all to the side? Oh, where'd it go? Hold on. Okay, here we go. All right, so this week's inventor, American inventor, is going to be George A.E. Barnes, and his federal patent number is going to be USD 29193, S as in Sam, and the invention date is going to be August 19th, 1898. If one of y'all can take that note down so the secretary can have it, I'll repeat it. It's going to be USD 29193, S as in Sam, and invention date is going to be August 19th, 1898. Mr. Barnes is from Erie County, E-R-I-E County of New York, and what he invented was a design for barbers. Make this a little bigger. Can y'all see this? Is it too small, or can y'all see? Y'all got, okay.
Yeah.
So on this particular invention, the letter A represents an open razor down here. So when you look at movies like Color Purple or whatever, and they're using the belt to get that razor sharp, you can see that's the first symbol that he has on this design. Item B is a sectional comb, which would be right here. It's a small comb. Item C is a shaving mug right here. D is a brush right here. And then above the comb section is a pair of scissors, which is right here. And this sign was intended for the use of barbers. So old school barbershops outside of the window or on the window, if you look at those, if you see an old school movie or something like that, you'll see this symbol outside of all our barbershops. And so Mr. Barnes was the one that designed this logo for our barbers. And we do not own a percentage of this. We do not capture a percentage of revenue from this invention, and neither does that family continue to have ownership of their family members' invention. So that's this week's inventor, George A.E. Barnes. Anything y'all want to say on this one?
Just trying to understand, what is the patent specifically on?
The design.
The design.
The logo.
Okay.
Okay.
No, that's hard.
Laid it out. I see it.
And shoot, just race today, man. Shoot, you gonna catch us. It's gonna be our where it used to be our hanging spot for, you know, a lot of people. You know, that's like a coming of age area, the barbershop. So just kind of cool to see the different aspects of it. Like somebody made a whole design for, you know, barbershop logos, and that somebody was an American. So that's pretty dope. This week, I'll go ahead with the Dr. Carter G. Woodson quote. And I think I'm gonna go ahead and do number 5, actually make it a little bigger. And number 5 reads, real education means to inspire people to live more abundantly, to learn to begin with life as they find it and make it better. But the instruction so far given Negroes in colleges and universities has worked to the contrary. In most cases, such graduates have merely increased the number of malcontents who offer no program for changing the undesirable conditions about which they complain. One should rely upon protest only when it is supported by a constructive program. And that just kind of stood out to me today. Pretty much just kind of thinking back on what I've been seeing, you know, personally in my life and stuff like that. Pretty much last week too. Just, you know, a lot of complaining, oh, we can't do this, we can't do that. You know, somebody asked the question, you know, if y'all want this government to fall, then what we gonna do? You know, that's the complaining part, the malcontents. Every week we show an example of an American. Sometimes it may be repeated, but that invention won't. But we show an owner of an industry, you know, somebody who said, okay, there's a problem, let me find the solution for it. Let me create the solution for it. And we have to get back to that. And what it's saying here in this last sentence, only one should rely upon protest only when it's supported by a constructive program. So, okay, yeah, we're going to protest it, but we also have this thing in place for it. That way we don't have to come back to you ever again. And that's what we're, you know, doing at this channel. This is what we're trying to build as a collective for our group of people. We have to start owning our own things. We can't keep asking, you know, where's this and where's that, where's reparations? We have to take it for ourselves. And that just is with everything. If somebody won't give you anything, then create it yourself. And that's what kind of just stood out to me with this quote for this week. All right. And without further ado, we'll go ahead and jump into the 1866 Indian Treaty hearings, and we should be wrapping it up this week. So we'll go ahead and press play and take some notes, see if we can go ahead and debunk these lies again.
The other sovereign party to the 1866 treaties that were signed by the 5 tribes. So the question would be, what role does the United States have to interpret and enforce the terms of these treaties as the other signatory? Probably not easy again for you to respond to.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Yeah, they're all hard questions, which is why I think we're here in this setting today. Both sovereigns that are party to a treaty have a responsibility to fulfill the terms of the treaty, and also have a right to help determine the treaty and its meaning. You know, I think the Cherokee Nation's journey here is a great example of the mix of diplomacy between the United States and the Cherokee Nation, but also the Cherokee Nation exercising its inherent sovereign powers through its own political processes and its own judicial process to resolve these questions without conflict or having an outcome imposed upon them from outside the nation. And so I think the United States has that ability as well as a sovereign party to the treaty. But, you know, that can be, I think the best way to resolve those is within the tribe and through the nation-to-nation relationship.
Assistant Secretary, hopefully this is very quick and very easy, but the Seminole Nation claims in their testimony that there's still some federal services that require the CDIB cards, the certificate degrees of Indian blood cards. These are including services that are provided by both BIA and Indian Health Services. Can you just share with me whether or not a CDIB card is a federal requirement for eligibility to access BIA programs and services?
Madam Vice Chair, typically we refer to a person's status as a tribal citizen or tribal member for the delivery of those services, and in most cases, and I believe with respect to all 5 of the tribes represented today, they perform the CDIB functions under contract with the BIA under their tribal government authority.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm well over my time. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Lujan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you to you, Chairman Schatz, and to Vice Chair Murkowski for this important hearing to discuss these respective treaties of 1866. I want to thank each of our esteemed witnesses for taking time to be with us today, and for all of our constituents who are here as well to participate in person, and for everyone that is participating virtually as well with this important conversation. My first question is for Chief Hoskin. How has recognizing Cherokee freedmen as Cherokee citizens affected the Cherokee Nation?
Well, I think it's affected us in a positive way. I mean, Mr. Chairman, or Senator, there's something about living up to what we see at Cherokee Nation insofar as our 1866 treaty is an obligation. We think treaties are solemn promises. So that in and of itself, I think, does something for the Cherokee people. I also think that exploring a part of our history that we have frankly suppressed collectively, individually, and are now doing the opposite, embracing it, is good. Frankly, it's good for the United States to take some scrutiny of its own history. I can say that as a chief of the Cherokee Nation, because the United States has suppressed Cherokee history collectively, individually. We have to look in the mirror, and we have to recognize that we've done the same. Embracing freedmen history, going into communities where many freedmen descendants live, for me as chief, I think it's made me a better chief. It is exposed me to some of the needs in that community that we need to work to meet. And so I just think it's been completely positive. I am not going to suggest that there hasn't been some difficulties in terms of our internal debates and discussions about whether this is what the treaty meant. I mean, Cherokees are certainly noted for disagreeing from time to time. We have a great and vibrant democracy in the Cherokee Nation, and people have raised their voices. I think that's also been healthy. But ultimately, we respect the rule of law. We respect our ancestors, and our ancestors agreed 156 years ago that freedmen and their descendants should be considered people that have all the rights of Native Cherokees. Being able to say that is important. Lastly, Senator, when I come into this chamber or in any forum in which I am pressing the government of the United States to live up to its obligation, I do so as a chief of a nation that's living up to the obligations in that same document. It would be difficult for me, Senator, to come to this committee and press for treaty rights if I could not say to myself, we are living up to all of our obligations. That makes Cherokee Nation, insofar as our treaty is concerned, I think a nation in a stronger position than we would be had we not done it.
Thank you, Chief Hoskin. Assistant Secretary Newland, you mentioned in your testimony that Interior is continuing to review consultation feedback before it makes a decision on whether freedmen are entitled to enroll at Haskell Indian Nations University in Kansas and the Southwestern Indian Polytechnic Institute in New Mexico. Assistant Secretary Newland, although enrollment at BIA post-secondary schools is still under review, what are some direct federal services that freedmen with tribal membership are entitled to?
Thank you, Senator Lujan, for the question. So if freedmen descendants are enrolled as tribal citizens, then they are brought within the scope of our relationship.
Yeah, we got 2 different people that spoke already, so we don't.
Pause it there.
Yeah, because he's about to say again. I just had a couple of things that people who watch this video need to ask themselves. First and foremost, for me, if you claim to be FBA, ADOS, Black First, or Indigenous, why are you not talking about this first ever 1866 Indian Treaty as if this does not pertain to your family? Like all of this shit is making at this point. Straight up. I know Tariq Nasheed and a lot of these other guys that got these channels about we're indigenous. That's cool. But for you not to be focused on this hearing, it shows that we're not in position as this reset takes place What they're about to do is they're about to reset this group of people and make you now freedmen. They're about to put you up under this Asian Mongoloid group again because you're not in the room to speak up for your great grandparents. Right. So we can talk all day on the internet, but the fact is this hearing took place, and unless somebody sends a document to put on the record, oh, by the way, here's the other version of that, we've got nobody speaking up on our behalf, which is what this channel is going to do in the very near future. We're going to send an intellectual arrow to the people that was in that hearing. And one of the things that we're going to have to get clear about United States government history is there was no Civil War. You cannot talk about a treaty when this government never declared a war. We got to get clear with that. How can these nations be sovereign when Indian territory isn't the original capitals? Can you pull that map up, Chief Biko, of the path that those nations had to take east of the Mississippi to get into Indian territory? We're not guessing, y'all. We coming straight up the middle with this shit. It ain't rocket science. Any of y'all want to say anything while he's looking for that map just on that topic right there?
Yeah, I'll piggyback off you, Chief Alligator. And I was just gonna exactly say what you were just saying, because like you've been saying this every week, and we have to acknowledge those things. You have a group of people talking about the Cherokee Nation being so heartfelt for the Cherokee Nation, and then we pull this map out. Where's the nation from? East of the Mississippi. So who the hell east of the Mississippi? If they over here in Oklahoma claiming Cherokee, who are the people east of the Mississippi? If that's where this comes from.
Correct.
It's right in our faces. So, I like how you're reiterating it, because this is unpacking the story. Like in their eyes, they think they're about to reclassify or shift or create a new whatever the fuck going on, reconstruction, pretty much going through that phase again. And you're exactly right. No one's in the room speaking up for us. Who's east of the Mississippi? Okay, cool. The government has now created this new fake nation of people, and they gave them our ancestors' names. We got it. Who the fuck is east of the Mississippi?
Right.
And what we're here saying is that's us too, guys. Like, we gotta wake up to that. Yeah, they're about to get, it sounds like they're about to just get reparations for our ancestors' shit.
Well, we
Whatever the
definitely
hell.
gonna shoot some, yeah, we definitely gonna shoot some intellectual arrows to we're gonna put something on file. At the end of the day, nobody's speaking on our behalf, like you said in that hearing, but look at this map if you're watching this video and understand this. One of those speakers said, we're a sovereign nation. Let me ask y'all a common sense question. How the fuck are you sovereign when you come from the other side of the Mississippi? How can you be moved into what they say Indian territory is? Can you put your cursor on what they're saying Indian territory is?
Oh, right over here.
So the people in this hearing are saying that they're sovereign there, but all these people come from here.
Let me just make it make sense real quick. Go back to that map I had up previously. Here we go. So again, if we just, take a screenshot with your mind, they said Indian territory would be roughly around here, pretty much Oklahoma. Now, this is 1774. What is it saying Indian country is? East of the Mississippi. This is Louisiana, Mississippi River. So what Chief Blackcoat is saying, yeah, we're east of the Mississippi, but they're claiming sovereignty west of the Mississippi. So who are these fraudulent people? Because they're not us, because they're not even talking about the real Cherokee, the real Choctaw, the real Chickasaw, the real Seminole, the real Creek Confederacy during these hearings.
And just to add on to that, look at this map, people, and stop giving the United States government credit for territory that it had not conquered. Georgia is the 13th colony. Can you put your arrow over where Georgia is on this map?
Right here. This is Georgia. So don't look at none of this red. This literally is what it was built for, a buffer between the Carolinas and Florida, which we also controlled.
Well, just say American territory,
Mhm.
because all of that, see, when they say Indian country, that's really just American, that's just country that they have not military occupied.
Mhm.
So when they created Georgia, it was a
Right.
buffer state between the Yamasee Wars, which was going on in the Carolinas, and the undeclared Seminole Wars, which was in the rest of this area.
Pretty much, yeah.
So them 13 colonies did not have the land. What started off as colonies that ended up being states, you got to remember in your mind, they didn't occupy that land that you know now to be Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi. Those weren't states yet. That's our shit.
Mhm.
That shit say West Florida. I love this map. I've never seen this one.
So they had to fight us for hundreds of years to create what we know as Alabama, Mississippi, Tennessee. None of that is populated yet. And that's where the slave narrative makes us think that we weren't owning and controlling this.
Mhm.
Back to your question, Chief Alligator. If you're a sovereign nation, I was just thinking. So if you came from did y'all create a think tank and decided to all migrate west? And if you did do that, if you're sovereign, where was this hearing held, and who are you asking
Exactly.
on behalf of the treaty?
Exactly.
You know, so this whole sovereign, yeah, it makes no sense. Yeah,
Well, they're contradicting themselves by even
correct.
using that word. Sovereign means you have power, absolute power. You're asking the U.S. Department of Interior official, what powers do you have to enforce these terms that we have made? Because it's not, it seems like, you guys aren't holding up to your, side of the bargain. So you're underneath this government. So how can you be
Right.
sovereign when you have to answer to a boss?
And it sounds like the government just has them thinking that they're sovereign because they live in Indian territory and they're all claiming our ancestors, culture and stuff. So they're thinking, oh, we're sovereign because today's time, no one claims these things. So we're not that anymore. We're yeah. All right.
We got 6 entities that's lying. We got 5 civilized tribes in the United States government. They're all lying. And the reason why I can say that, and we're going to stand on this until the government proves us wrong, you cannot have a treaty without the first declaring war. Nobody, we have added all historical museums from this channel. We have yet to get a response from anybody from the Archives of Government, the Library of Congress. We're waiting on you to show us that Congress of the United States government declared a civil war. If it never declares war, you cannot have a treaty.
Plain and simple.
All of
them treaties supposedly are ending battles or wars being waged. So find the document, or viewer, y'all comment below, show us the document in which Congress declared war during the Seminole War, this Civil War, because we didn't already debunked all of it, but we want to see, if you all can dig up anything that we haven't, because it's not there. It's not there.
I'm trying to understand why this ideal of civil war came about, because again, no government declared war. So it's like, was this just a story that they pulled? Like, I know it was a lot of battles. I get that they were battling. Now we're fighting. Our ancestors are fighting Europeans. Of course, a truce is going to come to a point because we'll just kill each other all day. But the whole Civil War part still has me confused. Like, okay, what made you say there's a civil war and treaties came out of it like that?
Because you're hiding in a shallow grave, the Seminole War. Go back to that original map you just had, Chief Biko. The Civil War is a lie to hide the Seminole Wars, which also was not declared by their Congress. They waged unlawful wars against the Americans in the Southeast region. To this day, we're still under that. That's how they were able to create a Mississippi, a Alabama, a Tennessee. What else would be in this area? A Kentucky, all of that. See, our issue, if I just keep it to a street standpoint, our issue is they never told us that they were fighting us.
Hmm.
When you declare the war, then it's like, we know, oh, that's what time it is. They
Yeah.
never outright said it. They're just doing it.
Mm.
Doing it through KKK, through
Right.
militia, through the police. They're doing it inadvertently, but then they're trying to say, hey, can't we all just get along?
Yeah.
But as soon as you turn your back, they bum rushing you.
Mhm.
We're saying is we're calling you on that shit, saying, no, you've been waging war since the 1800s. You just never said it in writing that it's a war.
Facts.
Right.
Yeah. Great point. Great point. Great analogy there too. It's like, okay, hold on. You just hit me, didn't you? Oh, it was by accident. Oh,
Civil War is the Seminole War. They don't talk about the Seminole War. We're just gonna call it the Civil War.
yeah.
I got you. Yeah.
To mask exactly what's going on. So while we're actually battling American, we just go and mask it or put this little veil over to make it seem like it was, us going against us. We'll have them use their name, different things. So we'll be real subliminal with it, but we know what's going on. We're on code.
Like Chief Alligator said, now we're getting these states out of these wars because now we've defeated Chief Tennessee or whoever, how that's going. It makes sense. Now we're building out. Yep, I got you.
Great point. Great point. Kind of keep moving there a little bit. Don't got too much further left. So looks like we're back to the Assistant Secretary of Department of Interior.
Between the United States and tribal nations and would then be eligible for the services that the federal government provides to that tribe and its members.
Thank you for that. Ms. Van, yes or no, are Cherokee tribal members with freedman status able to receive every direct federal service and right that the federal government provides to tribal members without freedman status?
No.
My follow-up is, what federal services and benefits are they not eligible to receive despite having full tribal citizenship?
When the Stigler Act amendments were made in 2008, the Act of 1947, the language did not allow freedmen tribal members / freedmen citizens to inherit restricted land from their relatives or spouses of their tribes, and the land would retain its restrictions. One other thing is that freedmen tribal members and freedmen citizens are being treated differently when it on the reservations when it comes to criminal cases. And again, I'm talking about the McGirt decision. So those are the two areas.
I appreciate that response, Ms. Ban. And Mr. Chairman, my time has expired. I do have other questions I will be submitting into the record and to follow up with those that I've asked. Thank you for the time today.
Thank you, Senator Lujan. Senator Langford.
Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Let's kind of just pause there. She kind of said something that, clearly identified who she is, but she's still stuck underneath this Freedman umbrella. She said that Freedmen members are being tried differently from these Indian members per se, because they know you're the American. You're trying to be somebody that you're not, but you're still an American. I don't give a damn what jurisdiction this is. You're an American. We're going to slap you across your head when it comes to our justice system, whether you're in the United States government justice system or you're in one of these nations' justice system. So it kind of, just seeing that, it is obvious to me. Okay, who you are within this situation. You're the real American. No, we can't give you fair. We're a subsidiary of our parent company, the United States. You think if they ain't gonna treat you right, we gonna treat you right? Hell no. So that was just one thing that really stood out to me.
I'm not understanding who they are talking about anymore, because she's going back between Cherokee and Freedmen, And I'm just trying to understand, who are we talking about right now? Are we talking about the Cherokee or are we talking about the Freedmen? We keep going in and out with Freedmen, Cherokee. And it's like, yeah, it's all over the place right now.
Yeah, they jumping around a lot, especially in regards to just the questions they asking and who they're asking. So yeah, they're pretty much everywhere in regards to this. I do want to kind of pull up that Freedmen's Bureau Act again, just to highlight who the actual freedmen are. So again, it makes sense why you wouldn't get treated fairly, because you're trying to represent somebody that you're not. Plain and simple. Again, you're being treated like this because you are the American. The American gets treated a certain way underneath the U.S. government, So you're going to be treated accordingly underneath our government. And also, you're trying to be this freedman who we know is the refugee and freedman of the rebel states right here. So if you weren't a refugee or freedman from these rebel states, then why are you here? Why are you trying to be these individuals who we've clearly identified?
Before we get into that, can we just push through a little bit more of the video and then we'll follow up with that?
Got you.
All of you that are here, it's nice to see so many Oklahomans here and get a chance to hang out with neighbors. And I very much appreciate your testimony, and for everyone coming today. Especially want to be able to thank Principal Chief Hoskins, Chief Johnson for coming here to be able to represent in leadership. All of you have done a great job representing your tribe, but I especially want to recognize the two chiefs that are here as well. Also for Marilyn Van, we met, I'm trying to think, 11 years ago when you chased me down in a town hall meeting at a public library and cornered me in the room to talk about freedmen issues.
Right.
And we're tenacious about that and has never stopped in the process. So you represent the freedmen well. You have stayed very knowledgeable on these issues and have stayed tenacious in the process on that. So it's great over a now decade-long friendship with us that we have stayed in contact since then. You didn't scare me off when you cornered me in the room to be able to talk through issues, and you still don't scare me off. And so glad to be able to call you a friend as well. Let me just ask a general question on this. And to just bring this out, because the chairman's trying to be able to figure out how do we get to resolution so this is not another century from now and this same kind of hearing is still occurring. Because many of you referenced these are resolved issues within our tribe. It's been resolved in law. It's been resolved through different treaties. It's been resolved through different arrangements. But it's clearly unresolved in some of these issues. So the key becomes, how do we actually get to resolution on this? So can you describe to me the relationship and the number of freedmen that are connected to the tribe that we know of? As you mentioned before, Chief Hoskins, about 12,000 at this point for the Cherokee Nation. The number, and then also what is the current relationship there, whether it is voting rights, whether it is other benefits, or whether it's nothing at all. And that would be helpful just to be able to get some context for the record on that. Chief Hoskins, obviously yours is the easiest of this one, but.
Yes, thank you, Senator. It is good to be here and to spend some time with you. At Cherokee Nation, citizenship is equal. I suspect my good friend Marilyn Van has the same thing with her that I have with me, which is a Cherokee citizenship card, which apart from our picture and name is indistinguishable. That's where it starts in terms of the symbolic representation of citizenship. But beyond that, there are equal rights. There are no distinctions between Cherokee citizens of freedmen descent or Cherokees by blood descent. I would note for the committee that Cherokee Nation is even more diverse than that. There are Cherokee citizens of Shawnee descent, Cherokee citizens of Delaware descent. Those all stem, Senator, from that same time period, the period of post-Civil War. There is no distinction. I do want to note, if I could take the opportunity, my friend Marilyn Van noted those two areas in which Cherokee citizens of freedmen descent do not have equal access. Those are two distinctly federal issues for which the Cherokee Nation would support any discussion, any dialogue on how to repair those. Those are not within the control of the Cherokee Nation. So to the extent, Senator, that it's within our control, equal rights is the order of the day at the Cherokee Nation.
Chief Johnson, it's good to see you.
Good to see you.
So do you have an accounting of what that number might look like for freedmen that are attached to the Seminole Nation or in a relationship there, and what that relationship is like?
The freedmen are numbered within the Seminole Nation citizenship, about 2,500.
Okay.
And I want to say some things on some things that's just been what I call innuendos and things. If anyone here has studied the history of the Southeastern tribes, what you're going to find is that the Seminoles are totally separate in the areas of the relationships with people of African, persons of African descent. My lands, the longest wars in American Indian history was fought between the United States, the Seminoles, and what they were called the Maroons. Some of them were escaped slaves, some of them were free people. That was freedom fighters that were fighting for the same cause, and that was to remain free. The Seminoles have always had the freedmen as their citizens since 1866. We had a Florida lands claims not too long ago, back in the 1990s. That was as a Seminole nation was recognized by Congress in 1823. The freedmen was not, the so-called freemen at that time was not actually freemen. They were persons of African descent, Maroons, free slave, or escaped slave from the South. So they were not eligible for those judgment funds as deemed by Congress. Now, what we know as Seminoles is that since 1866, the freemen have been citizens. They got 2 seats on the tribal council, which is 4 seats on the tribal council. They can vote on measures that's passed by the tribal council of the Seminole Nation. If they come in for enrollment, they come in and they are enrolled as citizens. You know, customs among American Indians are very important. Now, I hear all kinds of words being said this day. In my lands, our treaty says that the terms of the 1866 treaty made it clear that said legislation shall not in any manner interfere with or annul the present tribal organization, the rights, the laws, the privilege, and the customs. It has always been the custom of the Seminole because the treaty says so. It says right here in the treaty that its members are citizens. We had that choice to say members or citizens. So I see interchangeably that term being used, citizen, members, citizenship, membership, all that type of thing. And that might work for federal government, but in the customs of the Seminole Nation of Oklahoma, freedmen and the descendants of the freedmen, there's no such thing as a freedman today. I think you know that. They're descendants of freedmen. And they have always been, by custom of the Seminoles, the Seminole Indians have been members of what? Of the native bands, the 12 different native bands within the nation. And once after 1866 and the development of the freedmen bands, they have been members of those particular bands as well. But they have always been seen as citizens. And the customs of the Seminoles that became the specific tribes in Florida that became known as Seminoles, we have always been known as the members of those specific bands and that's in the Seminole Nation. So that's how the Seminole Nation sees it. That's our oral history. That's our tradition. And I believe the treaty actually supports those 2 terms being used. That's how the Seminoles use them in this present day as well.
Thank you, Chief Johnson. Michael Burge.
Yeah, thank you, Senator. With regard to a path forward, well, before that.
You kind of want to stop there or keep going? Got about 15 minutes left.
Yeah, we can keep going.
Right.
They're just giving off the numbers. Yeah.
Okay.
To give you, if we can get that, but I don't have a number to give you. But with regard to a path forward,
just it's not so much a path forward as it is just a description of the current relationship as far as services. What may be different on that?
The Choctaw Nation does not recognize the freedmen, and that is because of the Constitution. But just one brief word on that Constitution that arose in federal court. The Department of Justice and the Department of Interior were in that case. There was specific discussion about how certain people would be treated, the adopted, the intermarried white, and the freedmen. And a determination was made that it wanted to be Choctaw by blood. Delton Cox from Poto, Oklahoma was on that commission. And I've talked to him and he said this specific issue was discussed and the federal government never raised an objection. They never raised the treaty issue. They never raised the freedmen issue and approved this Constitution We think that Choctaw Nation as a sovereign entity should be able to determine its memberships as set forth by the Supreme Court.
Okay. Hey, Mr. Burris, thank you. John, I'm going to call you by your first name because we already know each other. So yeah.
Yes, sir.
So give us the approximate number that's in a relationship, if you know, if it's known, and then any other benefits or details or connection.
I don't think specific numbers are known because the data is notoriously challenging to confirm the validity of. And along those lines, Creek Nation has been engaged in an active effort to compile data internally and collect historic, cultural, legal information to help provide background for citizens of Creek Nation to have an informed dialogue that's driven by facts, not by political rhetoric. And that informed dialogue, incidentally, may go beyond any specific treaty provision. I want to point this out because the treaty issue is, it's been framed in very conclusory terms about what it says and what it doesn't say. But as I've said before, the treaty itself is working its way through our court system. But beyond that, this information gathering that our chief, Principal Chief Hill, has promoted as part of a national conversation will help inform conversations beyond simple treaty interpretation. Any nation worth its salt has to, including the United States, has to regularly determine whether or not existing laws are consistent with the will of the people. And you need information, you need data to have that discussion. But I would just say, in a previous position, I was at an agency that cited regularly a statutory provision that is often cited in many watershed legislation in terms of Indian affairs. And that legislation talks about the fundamental policy goal of the federal government is to support strong tribal governments. So whether it's through the judicial process of Muskogee Creek Nation or the public voting process of Muskogee Creek Nation, the federal government has a responsibility to support the sovereignty of the nation as it engages in this dialogue. It's important that it does so because, as I said before, colonialist history does not bode well in terms of efforts by the United States to impose its values on these sovereign nations. And we need to learn from history. So one way to turn sympathetic folks in this issue against a federal action is to impose solutions rather than have a true healing process within the nation that's fostered by information. And that's what we're engaged in right now at Muskogee Creek Nation. People may have concerns about timeframes. People may have concerns about when things are going to happen. But any progress of any nation comes in its own time. Yes, we need to push for a conversation, but it can't be imposed by the United States. So thank you, Senator. Your question about data is very well taken. The data, there are historic problems with the data, but we're internally looking at it. I caution against conclusory positions regarding what one treaty position means or a provision means without having the courts take a look.
I get that. Respect that's there, that the chairman's been working on for a while and trying to be able to think through how to be able to gather more data. The work that the Muskogee Creek Nation's already done will be very helpful in that process to be able to be informative for a process like that. So that's a helpful piece to be able to have. So I appreciate that very much. And what I think you hear from this committee and certainly from the chairman is how do we work together in this process? I don't hear a federal action to be able to try to step on any kind of tribe, and that it's getting a chance to be able to partner together for things. Mr. Cretham.
Thank you.
It's just to define terms. Chickasaw Nation doesn't track freedmen or non-freedmen. There's Chickasaw citizens and non-citizens. As I said, this was litigated over a century ago, so there aren't separate tracks of citizenship. There are just citizens. Many Chickasaw citizens are also folks who are descended from people who are held in bondage. So they could be classified as freed persons, but they're also on the Chickasaw by blood roll, so they count as citizens. I have no number for you as far as folks who are not on the Dawes Commission Chickasaw by blood roll, but are exclusively on Freedman roll. I have no number for you on.
Okay. All right. That's helpful. Very good. Mr. Chairman, I'm going to ask one follow-up question on it. So I apologize for going long. I'm taking my Oklahoma time with Oklahoma folks here in the process, but that's helpful. Thanks for just putting the context of that on the record because that's helpful to be able to get the context on all those issues. Mr. Newland, I do want to ask a slightly separate question on this just as a follow-up on it. There were two major Supreme Court decisions that have a very direct and immediate impact on Oklahoma. You know them very well as McGirt and the Castro Huerta decisions on that. I need to ask you a question. If the Department of Interior or if you or anyone you know of is currently working on a legislative response for McGirt or for Castro Huerta, is there any ongoing work either from technical assistance or writing? Because this has direct impact on every person that's here and on my state and for me and Oklahomans that I represent. So is there any action that's currently going on that you or anyone on your team working on to develop a legislative response to Castro Huerta or to McGirt?
Thank you, Senator. The executive branch has been asked to provide technical assistance on legislative language in response to the Supreme Court's recent decision.
Okay, was that only on Castro Huerta or was it McGirt as well?
Yes, Senator Castro Huerta.
Would you be willing to be able to share that in my office as the senator for Oklahoma? Obviously, that has the direct impact on my state as well and all these folks that are here.
Pardon? Can you?
Would you be willing to be able to share that information with me? Because obviously, as the senator for Oklahoma, that has direct impact on my state.
I don't see a reason why, no reason comes to mind why we wouldn't be able to share that, Senator.
Be great. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you. Senator Langford, just on the question of TA, I don't know who the TA is being provided to actually, but I just want to make sure that they have if it's a member or a member office or a committee office, I want to make sure that they have the ability to work confidentially with counsel and the executive branch. And but I can assure you that the conversations we've had privately about understanding the Oklahoma equities are well taken, but I just want to protect Secretary Newland's ability to work confidentially with whatever member or member office may be asking for TA.
Sure.
In fact, it could be my staff. I don't know yet.
I respect that. My biggest challenge is I don't ever want something being worked on or developed that's a piece of legislation that has direct and immediate impact on Oklahoma tribes and on the state of Oklahoma, and Oklahoma not actually be involved in that.
Nothing about me without me. I got it. Thank you very much. I just have one final question for Ms. Van, and I've lost it. Oh, got it. Knowing that Congress's authority related to tribal membership is limited by federal Indian law and the language of the treaties at issue today, what do you think can be done to further the cause of reconciliation? I think that although it got a little hot today, and I have no doubt that some people will leave this hearing, maybe even most people will leave this hearing feeling unsatisfied, not vindicated. I consider this a success because we aired it out and people were heard. And I think it is important to move forward, but I think it is important to move forward carefully. Measure twice, cut once. We want to make sure that we move forward legislatively together. We want to make sure that sovereignty is respected, but we also want to understand that African-American enslaved people and Native Americans were mistreated. And we are all in this situation because of the actions of the federal government of the United States. The official policy of the federal government of the United States ends up pitting African Americans and Native Americans against each other in this terribly unfortunate historic circumstance. And so I don't have an easy solution. I think a GAO report is a reasonable start. I think dialogue is an important start, but I'm open to whatever suggestions you may have about moving forward as quickly as we can, but understanding that if we try to move too quickly, it will actually backfire and we will lose another decade of potential progress. So I'm interested in your thoughts, Ms. Van.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am, as a member of a tribe, I am, certainly I believe in tribal sovereignty. But the United States, of course, does have a responsibility to the freedmen people as per the treaty, not just to the tribal chiefs and chairmen. Now, decisions have been made regarding the status of the freedmen by some tribal nations, and this comes in part after, Jim Crow laws, which put persons of African ancestry on the bottom of the deck here in Oklahoma. So far as solutions moving forward, where there are some the freedmen have tried to do various things to try to get equity under the treaty. As I said, for instance, there are some Creek freedmen descendants who have been trying to use the federal courts and also the tribal courts, as well as, of course, coming up here to DC. We would like for the true history of the tribes and the freedmen to be there. So as I said, that's one reason we're calling for studies, because there have been some tribal leaders in the past who have said things like the freedmen were forced on the tribes or snuck in from Arkansas, although there are federal records that say otherwise. So let's get the truth out there for what it is. So far as the, I like this idea of continued dialogue, but as I said, the freedmen people, a lot of people are in need. Not all of that is the fault of the tribes. Some of that is the state of Oklahoma. And there were some tribal leaders in the past that were in elected position. I think there was around 1907. There were some that were around that were coming from some of the tribes that sat in Congress, that sat in the Senate, and they were opposed to persons of African ancestry. I also want to mention that the freedmen people were not citizens of the United States until the other members of the tribe became citizens. Our citizenship was coming through the treaties. Now, so that being said, I made a few suggestions about, possibly how the United States can bring some relief to the freedmen people, so far as some services. I know all of that's going to cost money, but I also want to mention the fact that back in those earlier days, when the tribal governments were more limited, until the Principal Chiefs Act was passed in 1970, the Bureau, they did number people, including the freedmen people, sometimes for per capita payments. That happened, I know, in the Cherokee Nation. I know in the Creek Nation, there were some per capita payments in the past. And so this sort of thing can be done, but again, it's going to cost some money. I get that. In my 22-page report, I have some other suggestions there. Again, we couldn't get to in the 5 minutes. So that's what I'm thinking. It's going to take some time. So if by the federal government, I would like to, and I understand that there were constitutions that were approved by the federal government, but if freedmen people weren't allowed to vote on them, well, again, they've been signed. So there we are.
Thank you very much. I'll thank all of the testifiers as well as our first panelist, Chair Waters from the U.S. House of Representatives. The hearing record will be open for 1 month to allow ample time for views to be submitted for the committee's consideration. I want to thank all of the witnesses for their time and their testimony today. This hearing is adjourned.
All right. So that was it. Definitely a lot of blatant lies. I don't know if you wanted to kind of start off, Chief Alligator.
Yeah, let me get straight into it as we closed it out. Not playing with these people, man. We got 1 month to enter into the record. That's the most important thing that last lady that spoke That chairman was clear when he said submitting questions into the record. So people, the original, the de jure, people from those nations. This is why FBA, ADOS, and all these internet groups, you have to come out of the world of the internet and you have to get into the real world. Silence is acquiesce. The fact that nobody is putting any kind of documentation on the record for this hearing means that they can continue to go on with this lie. I put the numbers in our chat, but just to let people know, we're talking about freedmen, which is a made up word because we've read several treaties on this channel and we never saw the word freedmen. Okay, this word doesn't pop up until 1866. So Cherokee Nation is claiming 12,000 freedmen. Seminole is claiming 2,500. Choctaw is claiming none. Creek is claiming none. And Chickasaw is claiming none. Chief Biko, can you pull back up that map one more time of the path that people took to go into Indian Territory? So we just using street smarts. You don't need a school for this. What we know is Indian Territory, which they now refer to as Oklahoma. That is not the original capital for those 5 tribes. Point blank, period. What we also have to understand is they were military forced into Indian Territory. So the only people that surrendered and went into Indian Territory were accounted for by the United States government's military. The other question is, how many people went into Indian Territory? It's about 25,000 people went into Indian Territory on the Trail of Tears. Meanwhile, you got a covert war called the Seminole Wars going on in the southeast region of North America that the United States government never declared that war. So who were those people fighting against the United States government's military east of the Mississippi? Those are the people we descend from. Those are the people that's not going to be counted as Choctaw, Chickasaw, and all these other nations. Why? Because you didn't tap out and you didn't go into Indian Territory. We're going to get tagged as Negro, colored, Black, Afro-American, and now people of color. We have to understand that. That's what happened to us. That's how we started down this fictional road of being labeled as an adjective. Black is an adjective, Negro is an adjective, Afro-American is an adjective, people of color is an adjective, minority is an adjective. We got to stop adhering or responding to that as if that's us. The other thing that jumps out is with the reason why none of these nations can account for freedmen is because the shit didn't exist. This is a clusterfuck of a war. This is military moving people out and accounting for them on a Dawes roll and accounting for people that's in Oklahoma. They're not accounting for people east of the Mississippi. Can we pull up the Freedmen's Bureau Act? The most important thing we got to understand is who the fuck is the freedman?
But they were saying a lot of lies, boy, I tell you.
This is the new term that they're going to run with. Now, this date is 1865. We're going to read just this top paragraph so we can clearly get an understanding of who the fuck is the freedman. Be it enacted by the Senate and House of Representatives of the United States of America and Congress assembled, that there is hereby established in the War Department to continue during the present War of Rebellion and for 1 year thereafter a Bureau of Refugees, Freedmen, and Abandoned Lands, to which shall be committed as hereinafter provided, the supervision and management of all abandoned lands and the control of all subjects relating to refugees and freedmen from rebel states. Can you pull up that original map of them 13 states? So this War Department from the Freedmen's Bureau Act is accounting for the citizens that rebel from their states. Niggas, you weren't citizens of the United States. Y'all want to just build on that real quick? We're not the freedmen. They're accounting for people that rebelled from within their states. When they created their government, you were not a citizen of it. So they're accounting through their War Department, their own, what's the word they use? Subjects. They're accounting for their own subjects that fled due to the Seminole Wars. Y'all want to just build on that part real quick. That
And
the freedmen is people that were already citizens of the United States government. That's not us.
and Mary Van, one of her last statements, she said that we didn't become United States citizens until later. But again, this document just said refugees and freedmen of the rebel states, showing that they were citizens of that government. So who are you talking about, Miss Van? Are you talking about the Americans then become citizens? Because the document that we just pulled up, and I'll pull it up again, says refugees and freedmen from rebel states, meaning that they were part of that government. They were subjects, citizens. So that's a blatant lie that you just stated in regards to your last statement. And just to go even further, if we are these freedmen, then why do they make so many distinctions? And this is just one treaty. This is the Chickasaw one. So I'll go. We got Negroes right here, right? We got Negroes. That all Negroes not otherwise disqualified or disabled shall be competent witnesses in all civil and criminal suits and proceedings in the Choctaw and Chickasaw courts, and the law to the contrary notwithstanding, and they fully recognize the right of the freedmen to a fair remuneration. So what this is saying is that the Choctaw, Chickasaw, and Negroes fully recognize that these freedmen have the right to pretty much be a part of these governments. So it's this distinction between the freedmen and Negroes, right? Chief Alligator just stated we were reclassified as Negroes. So why are we trying to make these synonyms? Why are we trying to make these two words the same? Also, we'll go ahead and show up African. African right here, African descent. So they got Africans, Negroes, and freedmen. But this whole hearing is trying to bring all of them together underneath this freedman term. But that's not what the treaty say. So why do we want to be a part of this freedman term when their legal documents clearly define who these freedmen are, and that they clearly separate the difference between an African, a Negro, and a freedman?
Can we go back to the Freedmen's Bureau Act real quick?
Yeah.
Just to finish up that portion, so we're clear. So, and the control of all subjects relating to refugees and freedmen from rebel states or from any district of country within the territory embraced in the operations of the Army under such rules and regulations as may be prescribed by the head of the Bureau and approved by the President. So not only rebel states, but anywhere that the United States government Army was operating, they're going to classify those people as freedmen as well. The said Bureau shall be under the management and control of a commissioner to be appointed by the President, by and with the advice and consent of the Senate, whose compensation shall be $3,000 per annum per year, and such number of clerks as may be assigned to him by the Secretary of War, not exceeding 1 chief clerk, 2 of the 4th class, 2 of the 3rd class, and 5 of the 1st class, and the commissioner and of all persons appointed under this act shall, before entering upon their duties, take the oath of office prescribed in an act entitled An Act to Prescribe an Oath of Office, and for other purposes approved July 2nd, 1862, and the commissioner and the chief clerk shall, before entering upon their duties, give bonds to the treasurer of the United States, the former in the sum of $50,000 and the latter in the sum of $10,000, conditioned for the faithful discharge of their duties respectively, with securities to be approved as sufficient by the Attorney General, which bonds shall be filed in the office of the first controller of the Treasury, to to be by him put in suit for the benefit of any injured party upon any breach of the conditions thereof. So the bottom half of this paragraph talks about the positions being held through the War Department, how the bonds and different things are going to be allocated. The first half of this paragraph talks about people from the rebel states that rebelled and people in territory embraced in the operations of the army. So what we have to go back to, making it real simple, who were citizens of states? It's Europeans. The Americans were tribes people. We have to stand on the edge of the coin and understand Americans had tribes, Europeans had states. So we were not citizens of states in 1865.
Correct.
Y'all want to help me on that one? Or are we clear on that? Because I think that's where a lack of understanding American history, what they're trying to do is reclassify us again as we go through this reset, and everybody's trying to get in position how we're going to move forward for the next 100 years. That slave narrative is kind of playing out. So we'll call y'all freedmen. Well, pull up the Freedmen's Bureau Act and actually see what it says. You don't see the word Negro in here. You don't see the word colored, people of African descent. You don't see none of that language in this document. Why are you thinking it's pertaining to you?
Exactly.
Anything you want to share on this, Chief Black Coat?
Yeah, I know. So I was just thinking, listening to that hearing, I think they clearly understand that 90% of the population won't understand what they're saying, because they're definitely playing. They're definitely playing with our minds. And only people that have read things like this, understand that you're acting as if completely 100%. This is a military operation. You're acting completely like you are the American, and now you are classifying everybody else new to this land. So you're not the freedman. You're whatever you are, white man. And then everybody else, okay, I'll ask you a question. And it's like, hold on, who are we talking about here? So it's just we really just, when it comes to things like this, we really got to pay attention. That's the one thing I had in my notes was, we have to pay attention to, like you said, it's just lying. I don't know if this is a written script. I think they really understand that we could just speak and sound and look professional and they'll fall for it. I'm not sure what's going on, but having this type of information, it was just all lies. And if the freedmen were the European, you are the freedmen. So now they're literally stripping you of everything and giving everything that they were to you, and we're getting back to parts of freedmen. And well, I guess our group it's our group fault, because we the one that jumped on like, oh, we the freedmen. And they're like, oh, you want to be the freedmen? Then here you go. So it's just, you gotta catch these little bugs, these lies. And this is a military operation. It's so set up well, and they can just lie through. They can just lie because it sounds good, it looks good, and everybody's probably just like that lady you said. I wrote down, she's bored, falling asleep. She don't give a fuck about this. She's ready to go home. So it's like, this is difficult, but it's important that they're having these conversations, because you got people like us that can come out and be like, nope, that's you're lying. Here's a document, and that's just what it has to come down to. More and more our people have to understand who you are, where you come from, and how did this thing become a big ball of confusion. So that's my piece.
So let's shoot one intellectual arrow. Once we prove, or once the United States government can't prove when the question is asked, provide the document where you declared a civil war. If they can't provide a document that they declared a civil war, what does it mean for the Freedmen's Bureau Act and all the 1866 Indian treaties? That's a question. What happens if they cannot provide documentation that they ever declared a civil war? Then what happens with all these documents?
Really just that, and that's what I be thinking about. Like, it's just an allegory. Did they just write this story up and kept going with it. Yeah, none of those documents mean anything. It's just stories created, something I guess to buy them time or to save their ass or to write their way into American history. So it's, yeah, there's no Civil War, so it's just, and they continuously say Civil War, and it's like, okay, you know the lie, so you're gonna continue to go with it. Yeah, all those documents are dead. It's just pieces of paper at this point. It's like stories, like Harry Potter.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. It's dead. But we have to put them on Front Street and make them provide the proof.
Yeah.
If there wasn't a Civil War, then all this shit is dead.
Right.
That goes for everything Reconstruction wise, Homestead Act, everything after that shit. So when we say it's dead, that means pack all your shit and go. That
Back to
land
who
that was
you
given
are.
them 160 acres, no.
So here's the other question.
Huh?
Here's the other question. If you can't provide document that there was a Seminole War, what does that say? Because you're saying that the documents are dead if you did not declare a civil war. That means all these treaties are fake because there was no treaty to end the war that you never declared. Now, what about the Seminole Wars that you also got treaties for, but you never declared those wars? What happens when they can't provide a Congress voted on document that they declared a Seminole War? What happens then?
Gotta give it back.
You lose everything east of the Mississippi River.
Yep.
Intellectually, without firing a shot, going by your operating procedure, you said your Congress declares war. Your Congress never declared a war. Therefore, you stole everything east of the Mississippi River by unlawful war.
And in that same article, Congress has the right to declare war and plan on the captures of land and sea. So what he's saying, when he said you got to give it all back, you have to give it all back.
Of course, all of it.
And why is that, Chief Biko, Chief Blackcoat? Why do you have to give it back if you cannot show that you declared a Seminole War?
You unlawfully waged war.
You lied about it. You just wrote yourself in. And we fell for it.
So everything that their military did to those American towns, everything that they did, they have to what? They have to admit that we did not go by proper procedure to acquire it.
Genocide.
Right.
We committed genocide.
Yep. That's the big, yep. And that's the other big, yep.
We erased the people via paper.
Savagery.
And physically.
Yeah.
We committed genocide. That's what they had to admit to.
It's probably way worse than we can ever imagine too. They only gave us the parts of, you know, that the scary part, not the real gruesome, low down, whatever the hell was going on.
Yeah, anything y'all want to do in closing before we close it out? Any closing statements?
I think you said it. Just, yeah, you pretty much said it with that one, Chief Alligator. Just, you didn't declare war. So if you didn't declare war, how'd you obtain the land if there was never a war declared? So it's on, everything is, your government has nothing to stand on at that point. It's just
yeah.
And it's intellectual. Like I said, no shots fired. It's just intellectual. We are prisoners of war.
Yeah.
Because we did not go into Indian territory. So everything that's happened to us since then was unlawful.
So just to drive the nail in the coffin, what we saying is all of this shit, all of this shit unlawfully taken.
Yep. And you're not supposed to be organized or disciplined enough to ever stay in a timeline and walk through. And that's where we fought the highly schooled of our people that quote unquote focus on history. They always make us jump around. They'll start here, take us to Africa. What we do on this channel is we've walked all the way down the timeline, and we can clearly see, we found the glitches in your shit. We found the glitches in your shit.
Straight up.